Admiral John Harmon stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. His hands gripped the railing as he stared at the main screen. The Defiant was the largest ship in humanity's small fleet of just 12 vessels. Harmon was 52 years old with gray hair and a face marked by years of tough decisions. His blue uniform was clean and pressed with gold stars on the shoulders showing his rank. "Sir, look at this," said Lieutenant Sam Wilson, pointing to the radar display. The screen showed hundreds of enemy ships moving toward them. They looked like a swarm of angry metal bugs against the blackness of space. The alien fleet stretched as far as they could see. "How many?" Harmon asked, his voice calm even though his heart beat faster. "We count 327 Kelvari warships, sir," Wilson replied. "They outnumber us 27-1. Officer Lisa Morgan spoke up from her communications station. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and worry lines creased her forehead. "Admiral, they're calling us again. Third time in 2 hours." Harmon nodded. "Put them on the main screen." The screen flickered, and the face of a large reptile-like alien appeared. Supreme Commander Zex-Tar of the Kelvari. Empire had green scaly skin and 4 black eyes that didn't blink. His mouth had small moving parts that clicked together when he spoke. Even through the screen, the bridge crew could see he was at least 7 feet tall. "Admiral Harmon," the alien said in a deep voice, "you humans continue to surprise me." The translator made his words sound flat and mechanical. "We have given you many chances to give up your outer colonies and go back to Earth. Yet you bring your tiny ships as if you want to fight us." The alien's 4 eyes moved as he looked at something off-screen. 12 ships? Is this truly all that humanity can send against us? Your species has taken 17 star systems, yet this is your defense? Harmon kept his face neutral, not showing any emotion. "Commander Zex-Tar, please think again about this invasion. The Galactic Concord has officially recognized humanity's right to these systems." Zex-Tar made a sound like rocks being crushed. The humans had learned this was how Kelvari laughed. "The Concord is weak and talks too much," the alien commander said. "We Kelvari take what we want, when we want it. Your resistance is funny but pointless. You have 6 Earth hours to run away before we attack." The screen went black as the alien cut the connection. Tactical Officer Greg Wallace moved to stand beside Harmon. Wallace was a tall man with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Sir, they still don't see our hidden platforms. Their scans went right past them." "Good," Harmon said, "and they clearly think our fleet is too small to matter." Science Officer Diane Rivera looked up from her station. Her fingers flew across her control panel as complex math problems filled her screen. "This matches everything we know about them, sir. The Kelvari always believe that having more ships means they will win. They cannot imagine that better technology could beat larger numbers." Rivera had been studying the Kelvari for years. She understood their thinking better than anyone else in the fleet. Their whole society is based on this idea. The biggest, strongest, or most numerous always wins. It's built into how they see the universe. Harmon nodded slowly. "Then they've made their first mistake." He turned to the communication station. "Officer Morgan, send the coded message to all ships. Begin Operation Thunderclap. And contact Director Julia Bennett at Neptune Base. Tell her it's time to use the Chimera Protocol." The bridge exploded into activity. Crew members rushed to their stations shouting orders and confirming details. The air hummed with energy and purpose. Captain Frank Russo, Harmon's second-in-command, approached. "Should we move to defensive positions, Admiral?" "No," Harmon said. "Let them think we're frozen with fear. The longer they underestimate us, the better." Russo lowered his voice. "The Chimera Protocol has never been tested in actual combat, sir. The simulations were promising, but this is different." "I know the risks, Frank," Harmon replied. "But we've run out of options. The Kelvari have taken 3 neutral systems in the past year. They've destroyed every fleet that opposed them. If we don't stop them here, Earth will be next." Russo nodded, his face grim. "The crew is ready, sir. They know what's at stake." Harmon walked to the large window at the front of the bridge. Beyond the glass, stars sparkled in the darkness. Between those peaceful points of light waited the massive Kelvari armada. Their ships were sleek and deadly, built for war and conquest. Each one was larger than the Defiant, with more weapons and thicker armor. "Begin system checks on the Nexus core," Harmon ordered. "I want everything perfect when we activate it." "Yes, sir," Rivera responded. "Running diagnostics now." Harmon turned to look at his crew. These men and women had trained for years for this moment. They were the best humanity had to offer. "So, Kelvari think they know what they're facing," Harmon said. "They see 12 ships and think we're weak. They don't understand what these 12 ships can do together." On a hidden screen at Rivera's station, a countdown appeared. 5:42.17 and counting down. Less than 6 hours until the Kelvari would attack. Harmon sat in his command chair and opened a secure channel to the other 11 ships in the fleet. "This is Admiral Harmon to all vessels. The enemy has given us 6 hours before they attack. We'll use that time to prepare. The Kelvari believe their numbers make them unbeatable. Today we'll show them that humanity's strength isn't in how many ships we have, but in how we use them." He paused, looking at the faces of the other captains on his screen. Humanity has always survived by being smarter, not stronger. When early humans hunted animals larger than themselves, they used tools and teamwork. When we fought wars against superior forces, we used strategy and innovation. Today is no different. The Kelvari mock our tiny fleet because they can't imagine what it really is. The bridge was silent as everyone listened. "They laugh now," Harmon said, his voice firm and confident. "But soon they'll understand their mistake. Check your systems. Prepare your crews. In 6 hours we make history." As he ended the transmission, Harmon looked once more at the enemy fleet waiting in the darkness. The Kelvari had no idea what humanity's tiny fleet actually was, or the technological revolution it contained. In less than 6 hours they would learn. 5 hours passed quickly. Commander Alan Beck paced the bridge of the USS Intrepid, the smallest ship in humanity's fleet. The Intrepid was only 1/3 the size of Admiral Harmon's flagship, but what it lacked in size, it made up for in importance. Beck was younger than most commanders at only 36 years old. He had short brown hair and a scar that ran from his right eye to his jaw, a reminder of an early battle with space pirates. He stopped pacing and turned to his crew. "How much time do we have left?" he asked. His second-in-command, Officer Linda Franklin, checked her watch. "Less than 1 hour before the Kelvari attack, sir." Franklin was tall with short black hair and dark skin. She had served with Beck for 7 years, and he trusted her completely. Beck nodded and looked at the main screen. The enemy fleet was still there, waiting like a pack of hungry wolves. "Status report on our special systems? Quantum link network stable at 99.8%, Franklin reported, looking at her display. "All 12 ships are connected and talking to each other." The quantum link was a new technology that allowed the human ships to share information instantly, no matter how far apart they were. It broke the normal rules of physics, letting all 12 ships act as one. Beck walked to the main control panel. The Intrepid might look small and weak to the Kelvari, but that was part of the plan. Let them think we are nothing, Beck thought. Let them underestimate us. "How are the Nexus cores?" he asked. Chief Engineer Paul Ryan looked up from his station. Ryan was a stocky man with a bushy brown beard and hands that were always stained with engine grease. "All 12 ships report green status, sir. The field generators are ready. The dimensional pocket systems are fully charged." Ryan wiped sweat from his forehead. 5 years of research, 3 years of building, and we're about to find out if this crazy idea actually works. Beck smiled at his friend. "Have faith, Paul. Dr. Rivera and her team knew what they were doing." Beck looked around the bridge at his crew. They all knew what was at stake. The Kelvari had destroyed every fleet that had faced them. They had conquered 3 star systems in the past year alone. If humanity's plan failed today, Earth would eventually fall too. The Kelvari would be expecting normal weapons. Laser beams, missile systems, maybe some nuclear bombs. What they didn't know was that each of the 12 human ships carried something far more dangerous. A piece of a connected weapons system that would work as one through the quantum link. This technology was humanity's best-kept secret. After humans first met alien civilizations 30 years ago, they quickly realized they could never build fleets as large as those of older space empires. Earth simply didn't have enough resources or time. Instead, humans focused on quality over quantity, developing technologies that no other species had thought of. Officer Ryan Miller at the science station spoke up. "Commander, I'm picking up unusual energy readings from the Kelvari fleet. You might be preparing to attack early." Beck frowned. "Show me." Miller put the readings on the main screen. Colored lines showed energy building up in the enemy ships. "They're warming up their main weapons," Beck said. "Inform Admiral Harmon immediately." Before Franklin could send the message, the communications panel beeped. "Incoming transmission from the Defiant," she announced. "It's Admiral Harmon addressing all ships." Harmon's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was serious, but calm. "All ships, this is the Admiral. The Kelvari have rejected our final warning to withdraw. They are preparing to attack before their own deadline. They believe our small fleet shows weakness. Today, we prove them wrong. All vessels prepare to initiate Chimera Protocol on my mark." Beck felt a wave of emotion. Humanity had never wanted this fight. They had tried talking peacefully, offering trade deals, and finally clear warnings. But the Kelvari, with their society built on conquering others, could not understand a species that preferred working together, yet had the power to defend itself fiercely when needed. "All hands to battle stations," Beck ordered. "This is not a drill." Red lights flashed throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their positions. The air felt charged with electricity and tension. On the screen, Harmon continued. "What we do today will change the future of humanity in space forever. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." Beck turned to Franklin. "Open ship-wide communications." When she nodded, he spoke to his crew. "This is Commander Beck. In a few minutes, we will activate the Chimera Protocol. Years of work have led to this moment. Each of you knows your duty. Each of you understands what's at stake. I couldn't ask for a better crew." He paused, looking at the determined faces around him. "The Kelvari see us as weak because we have few ships. They don't understand that humanity has always overcome challenges by thinking differently. While they built more and bigger ships, we built smarter ones. While they focused on quantity, we focused on quality. Today they learned that lesson." On the main screen, Admiral Harmon gave the final order. "Chimera Protocol active in 3, 2, 1, mark." Beck pressed his hand against the special control panel that had remained locked until this moment. It scanned his palm, and then opened to reveal a glowing blue button. "Initiating Chimera Protocol," he said firmly, and pressed the button. Throughout, the 12 human vessels' special nexus cores began to hum with energy. Hidden systems activated all at once. The quantum link between the ships strengthened until they were connected more closely than any ships had ever been before. What the Kelvari saw as 12 small, insignificant ships was about to become something else entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before. The Kelvari fleet moved forward exactly at the 6-hour mark. Their huge ships formed perfect attack lines, just as they had in hundreds of battles before. On the command ship, Supreme Commander Zextar sat in his raised chair, looking down at his officers. His green scales glittered under the bright lights of the bridge. "The humans have not retreated," his first officer Kreltav said. Kreltav was shorter than his commander, but just as fierce. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the screen. "They choose to fight rather than run away. Strange." "Not strange, foolish," Zextar replied. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "The humans are known for being clever, but this is clearly a mistake. 12 tiny ships against our armada? They have no chance." He leaned forward in his command chair. "Target their biggest ship with our main weapons. Let's end this quickly. The human colonies will be ours by the end of their Earth week." The weapons officer began to enter commands, but before he could finish, alarms blared across the Kelvari bridge. Red lights flashed, and warning sounds filled the air. Energy spike detected from the human fleet, shouted the sensor officer. His 4 eyes were wide with surprise and his hands shook slightly as they moved across his control panel. The readings are... impossible. Zextar stood up, his 7-foot frame towering over his officers. Explain immediately. The human vessels are changing, Supreme Commander. On the main screen, the 12 human ships began to glow with bright blue energy. The energy formed lines between each ship, connecting them like a giant spiderweb in space. The glowing pattern grew larger and more complex. What trick is this? Zextar demanded, his voice rising with the first hints of worry. Inside the USS, Defiant, Admiral Harmon watched as the Chimera protocol worked exactly as designed. The quantum link created a unified field between all 12 ships, while the dimensional pocket systems began to open. Phase 1 complete, reported Science Officer Rivera from her station. Dimensional pockets are opening. All components are coming out as planned. What no alien race had discovered was that humans had developed technology to store objects in special pockets of space, areas that were bigger on the inside than they appeared on the outside. Each of the 12 small ships actually carried pieces of a much larger vessel, hidden in these dimensional pockets. Lieutenant Commander Wallace stood at his tactical station, his hands moving quickly over the controls. All weapon systems are powering up. The assembly process is proceeding at optimal speed. As the Kelvari watched in growing alarm, massive ship sections, weapon platforms, and energy systems appeared out of nowhere around the human ships. The parts moved by themselves, connecting together like a giant puzzle. Full assembly in 60 seconds, Wallace announced, watching the process closely. The 12 ships that had seemed so small and weak were now becoming connection points for an enormous battleship, a vessel larger than anything in the Kelvari fleet. On his command ship, Zextar could not believe what he was seeing. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, and his scales changed color from green to a pale yellow, a sign of Kelvari fear. "Open fire!" he shouted, his voice cracking slightly. "Destroy them before they finish whatever this is." The Kelvari fleet responded immediately. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles launched toward the transforming human fleet. But they were too late. Chimera formation complete, Rivera announced on the Defiance bridge. Shield systems online. The newly formed human megaship, the Chimera, activated its shield system, absorbing the Kelvari attack without damage. What had been 12 separate ships now worked as a single powerful weapon. Through the window, Harmon could see the amazing transformation. The Chimera was massive, nearly twice the size of the largest Kelvari vessel. Its hull gleamed silver and blue in the light of the distant sun. Weapon ports lined its sides and energy pulsed through special channels across its surface. All weapon systems online, Wallace reported. Ready to fire. Admiral Harmon stood tall, his face serious but calm. The Kelvari made their choice when they refused to leave. Target their command vessels and main weapon platforms. Fire. The Chimera's weapons activated all at once, sending dozens of energy beams toward the Kelvari fleet. Each beam was perfectly aimed, hitting the most important ships and systems. The Kelvari shields, designed to stop normal weapons, failed almost instantly against the new human technology. 20 Kelvari ships exploded in the first attack. Their debris spread across space in fiery clouds. The remaining alien ships tried to adjust their formation, but they were confused and disorganized. "Second volley ready," Wallace said. "Fire," Harmon ordered. Another wave of destruction hit the Kelvari fleet. This time, 30 more ships were destroyed or damaged. On the Kelvari command ship, chaos ruled. Officers shouted reports and questions while alarm systems blared. Smoke filled the bridge from damaged control panels. Zextar gripped the arms of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the screen in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he hissed. "Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they don't exist." "Supreme Commander," the communications officer called out. 3 of our attack groups are reporting complete shield failure. The human weapon is using some kind of energy we've never seen before. Zextar turned to his tactical officer. "Fire. Everything we have at that thing." The Kelvari fleet launched its full arsenal at the Chimera, the space between the fleets filled with energy beams, missiles, and torpedoes. The attack was impressive, a display of firepower that had destroyed entire planetary defense systems in the past. But when it hit the Chimera's shields, nothing happened. The huge human ship remained untouched. "Their attack had no effect, Admiral," Rivera reported on the Defiance bridge. "Our shields are holding at 92% strength." Harmon nodded. "Let's show them what else we can do. Activate the gravity pulse system." Rivera pressed a sequence of buttons on her console. Gravity pulse charging. Ready in 5 seconds. The front section of the Chimera began to glow with intense white light. Energy gathered at a single point, growing brighter until it was painful to look at. "Gravity pulse ready," Rivera said. "Target the center of their fleet formation," Harmon ordered. "Fire." The white light shot forward from the Chimera, moving faster than any normal weapon. When it reached the middle of the Kelvari fleet, it exploded outward in a sphere of pure gravitational force. Ships caught in the pulse were crushed or torn apart. Others were thrown violently off course, crashing into nearby vessels. In a single moment, the proud Kelvari armada was transformed into a chaotic mess of damaged ships and floating debris. On the Chimera's bridge, the human crew watched in silence. There was no cheering, no celebration. They had never wanted this battle, but the Kelvari had given them no choice. "Damage report on the enemy fleet?" Harmon asked quietly. Wallace studied his screen. "Over 40% of their ships are destroyed, or disabled, sir. The rest are in disarray." "Send a message to the remaining Kelvari vessels," Harmon said. "Tell them we will accept their surrender." 3 hours after the battle began, it was over. The massive human ship Chimera floated among the broken pieces of what had once been the mighty Kelvari armada. More than 200 Kelvari ships had been destroyed. The rest, about 100 ships, had turned and fled back toward Kelvari space. On the central command bridge of the Chimera, what had once been the USS Defiant before the transformation, Admiral Harmon stood looking at the main screen. The bridge was quiet. No one cheered their victory. They had won, but the cost had been high. 15 human crew members had died when a lucky Kelvari shot damaged one section of the Chimera during the battle. "Sir," Communications Officer Lisa, Morgan said, breaking the silence. "We're receiving a transmission from one of the retreating Kelvari ships. It appears to be their secondary command vessel." Harmon straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen." The face of a Kelvari officer appeared. His scales were pale, almost white with shock. This was Subcommander Vexilorn, the second in command of the Kelvari fleet. His mandibles trembled as he spoke. "We request terms for stopping this battle," he said, his voice shaky and uncertain. The translator made his words sound flat, but everyone could hear the fear behind them. "Unconditional withdrawal from human space," Harmon replied without hesitation. "Return to your own territory and stay there. Any Kelvari ship that crosses the border we establish will be considered an enemy and destroyed." The alien commander lowered his head slightly. "Agreed." Then he looked up and his 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "But I must know, how did you hide such technology from our spies? How did you create this?" He gestured at the massive Chimera battleship. Harmon thought about the question for a moment. The Kelvari had always been certain they knew everything about humanity's capabilities. Their arrogance had been their downfall. "Your people judge strength by numbers, Subcommander," Harmon said finally. "You saw 12 ships and assumed we were weak because that's all your culture allowed you to. See? Humans learned long ago that when you can't match your enemy's size, you must find a different way to fight. The dimensional technology," Vexilorn began, his voice filled with wonder, "is just one of many advances we've made." Harmon finished. "There are others." The implied threat wasn't lost on the Kelvari commander. His scales paled even further. "The Galactic Concord will hear of this," Vexilorn said. "Other species will fear what you've built." "Perhaps," Harmon acknowledged. Or perhaps they'll recognize that we use this technology to defend ourselves, not to conquer others. We asked for peace multiple times. Remember that, sub-commander, when you report to your leaders. After the transmission ended, Science Officer Rivera approached. Her uniform was dirty and torn from the battle, and there was a small cut on her forehead, but her eyes were bright with pride. "The Chimera performed better than expected, Admiral," she said. "The dimensional integrity is at 94%, and the quantum link network is still stable." "And our losses?" Harmon asked quietly. 15 dead, 22 injured, Rivera replied, her voice solemn. "We've already sent medical teams to all sections." Lieutenant Commander Wallace joined them, carrying a tablet with the latest reports. "Sir, the stealth platforms recorded everything as planned. The entire battle is documented from multiple angles." He hesitated, then smiled slightly. "There's something else you should know, Admiral. The other 5 Chimera-class assembly groups remain undetected in their holding positions. The Kelvari never realized we had 60 ships, not 12. Harmon nodded with satisfaction. That had been the backup plan. If the first Chimera had failed, the other 5 groups would have attacked from different directions. Humanity had been prepared to fight to the end. "What are your orders, sir?" Wallace asked. Harmon looked out, the viewport at the stars. "Begin disassembly sequence. Let's return to standard configuration before we head home." "Yes, sir," Wallace replied, and moved off to carry out the order. Captain Frank Russo approached next. "The crew performed admirably, Admiral. Every person did their duty." He paused. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild, heal our wounded, and mourn our dead," Harmon said. "And we prepare for what comes next." "Do you think the Kelvari will honor the agreement?" Russo asked, lowering his voice. "They will for now," Harmon replied. "Today they learned that more ships don't always mean victory. It's a painful lesson they won't forget quickly." He sighed. "But eventually they may try again. That's why we'll strengthen our defenses at the border." Around them, the bridge crew worked to begin the complex process of separating the Chimera back into its 12 component ships. The connections between sections began to glow blue again as the quantum link prepared for disassembly. "Communications," Harmon called. "Prepare a message to Earth Central Command. Title it, Operation Chimera Success." Officer Morgan nodded. "Yes, sir. Any specific details you want included?" "Tell them that the Chimera performed beyond expectations. Tell them that we faced a fleet of over 300 enemy vessels and emerged victorious. And tell them," he paused, "tell them that the 15 men and women who gave their lives did not do so in vain." As Morgan sent the message, the huge Chimera began to separate. The assembled megaship slowly came apart, each section returning to its original position. The dimensional pockets reopened, absorbing the extra components back into hidden space. Within 30 minutes, 12 normal ships floated where the massive Chimera had been. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, now a separate ship again, Admiral Harmon called all his captains for a final meeting before they returned to Earth. "What we did today changed history," he told them, looking at each face on his screen. "For years, humanity has been seen as a minor power in the galaxy. They looked at our small fleets and thought we were weak. Today, we showed the truth." Commander Alan Beck of the USS Intrepid spoke up. "Sir, what will the Galactic Concord say about our new technology? They might see it as a threat?" "They might," Harmon agreed. "But we'll make it clear that the Chimera is a defensive weapon. We won't use it to start wars, only to end them." Each captain nodded in agreement. Humanity had never wanted to be conquerors. They had explored space hoping to find friends and partners among the stars. Today they had been forced to fight, but tomorrow they would return to their peaceful mission. "Set course for Earth," Harmon ordered. "Let's go home." As the 12 ships turned and activated their engines, news of the battle was already spreading throughout the galaxy. The species that had once mocked humanity's tiny fleet now spoke of them with new respect and, in some cases, fear. But Admiral Harmon wasn't concerned about fear. The demonstration would serve both as a warning and an invitation. A warning to those who might threaten human worlds, and an invitation to those who preferred cooperation over conflict. Behind him, through the viewport, the stars shone brightly, on a new chapter in humanity's journey among them. The end.